Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen, covering the week that was in professional wrestling. Welcome, everybody, to the Elimination Chamber prediction show here on the Juice Box. I am Juice Springsteen, as always, and we are doing another live show tonight, which is quite not the norm here. We did one last week, of course, for episode 200, which I thought was a pretty fun show. I would say a success in some circles. We had quite a few people hopping in, hopping on, giving their takes, their analysis. And it was great to have Grumpy and Advocate and Jordan, those from the Wrestle Collective, Dev as well. I know Andrew Badala popped his head in to discuss some stuff. We had Phil as well coming in to discuss the week that was in pro wrestling, all for episode 200 of the Juice Box. But tonight is episode 201. We are here to discuss the Elimination Chamber PLE tomorrow night, Chicago, Illinois. A lot of high stakes going into this show. We're going to discuss the crate, the contents of the crate, and all four matches, as we normally do here on the Juice Box. Before we do that, of course, as always, follow me on Twitter at Juicy Steen, at Juicy Wrestling Closet on Instagram, at Juicy Steen on YouTube. I mean, you're watching it either on X or on YouTube. There, you're already at the at Juicy Steen link. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, juicysteen.podbean.com. If you'd like to rate and review the show, Apple Podcasts via iTunes and Spotify is a great place to do that. Leave a rating and review. It does help the show grow. So, yeah, we're doing another live show tonight. I sent out some feelers to people. If they want to hop in at certain points, they can. I have no problem if someone wants to come in and do the show. I also have no problem if I'm going to do the show solo. It's just a quick little prediction show. I don't anticipate this going longer than an hour, but this is a pretty big show. A Elimination Chamber PLE normally, back in the day, the titles might have been on the line, but in recent years, even the tag championships were on the line in an Elimination Chamber, if you recall. But at a point, it began to be, well, it's kind of like the last chance if you didn't win the Rumble, if you didn't make it to the main event of WrestleMania by now, you do have one more chance, and it is by winning the Elimination Chamber. Now, this particular show has two of those matches, the men and the women, and then a women's Intercontinental Championship match and the men's World Heavyweight Championship match, which we will discuss in great detail. I'd like to shout out Matt Presto hopping in here in the comment section. We got Tay Tay the Savior. What's up, Tay Tay? Always cool to see these guys popping in, showing support. We can put those on the screen, but we can kind of dance around it. We're going to probably finish with the men's chamber match, but Matt says it here. Javon Evans will be a made man by tomorrow night if he isn't already. He's not made just yet. However, I think that John Morrison comes to mind, Kofi Kingston comes to mind, where some of these guys have done unbelievably athletic maneuvers in the chamber. Rob Van Dam was probably the first to really kick that off and really showcase what he could do, what anybody could do on top of these chamber pods, what have you, to really showcase your athleticism while also trying to just win the Elimination Chamber match and go on to WrestleMania, which again ultimately is what everyone here is trying to do. So we'll probably kick things off here with the women's Intercontinental Championship match. Now, I do want to also bring up, this is the 16th Elimination Chamber PLE, which is nuts. this show or this match type started out Survivor Series 2002, Madison Square Garden, and was just this crazy concoction of war games, Hell in a Cell, but only one person can win. It was a unique idea, brutal idea, especially with the original incarnation of the match, where everything was metal and chain link, and now it's a little bit more safer, and they've got nice, cool angles for camera placement in the chamber itself. So I do like the safety of it where, you're not necessarily ruining anybody's careers just by being in the match. Now, I know back in the day, 2002, all the way to probably 2011 when they were really still doing the same type of chamber, they were, promoting it as you might not be the same. You might not be the same coming out of the chamber. They still reference those types of points now, but it's a lot more safe. It's a lot safer for sure, and I appreciate that as you want to have longevity with careers in pro wrestling. Your AJ Styles and your John Cena's, these guys are retiring from a time where some of that wasn't necessarily the first priority, but because things changed throughout their careers, they got to go longer than I would wager they initially anticipated. So hopefully, this chamber match concept continues even with these safety precautions in there. I really have no issue with it. But yeah, it's in Chicago, so that's going to play a huge factor, I think, in some of these matches. It's apparently the first WWE televised event to be held inside the United Center since SummerSlam '94, which had another great cage match, and I know the Chamber's more than a cage, but Owen Hart, Bret Hart in the blue steel cage, one of my favorite cage matches of all time. An underrated match between Lex Luger and Tatanka as well on the SummerSlam '94 show. Of course, Undertaker versus Undertaker, but the United Center has been quite the place for pro wrestling uh, over the years. And, for it to be 1994 since the last show that they had for WWE, Spring Stampede took place. Spring Stampede 2000 took place at the United Center. The first dance, of course, happened there for AEW, which, Forbidden Door as well. But the first dance where CM Punk returned to pro wrestling happened at the United Center. So gotta say, it's pretty cool now that Punk is out of there into WWE. Now he gets a hometown ovation, world title defense. AJ Lee also gets a Chicago title match. And I think Chicago's going to play a big factor in a couple of pieces of business here. So let's kick things off with that uh, first match or second match I brought up with the title implications. Becky Lynch, AJ Lee, the IC title, the women's variety. This feud has been interesting to me. I don't think it's been bad necessarily, but I also don't think that a match like this necessarily really needs to anchor itself with promo battles. I think that the promo segments between these two ladies have not added as much to the match as maybe hurt the match, because to me, AJ Lee is coming off as I guess, a cocky character, as it were. But I also think, even as a babyface, but to me, that just means that AJ Lee has been saying these things and being, very convincing by saying her promos and doing these things with conviction. She truly believes what she's saying. And I think that's actually good for the character. But when you're going against Becky Lynch, who is, trying to be this uber heel, Sports Illustrated would even say that, you gotta play with the dynamics, and maybe the way AJ Lee is approaching it, it's not that she's doing it in a bad way, but contrasting it with Becky Lynch makes it almost seem like they're both heels, and it's, who's gonna be the better heel of the two. Now, this match taking place in Chicago, I think AJ Lee is going to just get a huge, huge response reaction here. She's not from there, but her being with CM Punk and Chicago being his big, his hometown, you're going to get a massive response for AJ Lee here. And I've been thinking about this match. We talked about all these matches yesterday on No Dirt Just Dialogue, and I heard what Drew said. I heard what Jordan said. They presented the match in a way where AJ Lee has to win because it's in Chicago, and Becky might find her way into the chamber, and interrupt things. Somewhat seems convoluted to me because I think even though these two are wrestling at Chamber, I could easily see them having a match again at WrestleMania, even though it's what, a month and a half, month and 3 weeks in between Chamber and WrestleMania. But that's not how I see this match going. I don't see Becky getting herself into the Chamber or going after another title. I think this specific feud deserves a big blow off final conclusion at WrestleMania. And for that to be the case, I think you'd like to see AJ Lee win the championship if she's going to, because we're really not sure if AJ Lee is a full time competitor at this stage. Is she going to be going forward? Is she just going to stick around and be the, you know, not a transitional champion, but just kind of be there for not a cup of coffee, but be there for a little bit of time where maybe a title reign isn't necessarily in her plan, in her mind. Um, and to kind of get to the end of what I think is actually going to happen, I'm going to bring up this comment here. So I'm saying that there will be a third match, well, a third interaction because they had of course, the tag match at WrestlePalooza, but I can see a world where AJ Lee is very close to winning this match, maybe even having Becky Lynch pinned in a submission, something. And for one way or the other, maybe someone interferes. Maybe that's a wrinkle to this we're not necessarily looking at. And either way, I believe that not by DQ. I think that is a little bit of a cop out. However, I wouldn't rule it out, especially with Becky Lynch. That's what I will say. But if Becky Lynch can sneak a win or cheat her way to a win, at least cheating in the eyes of AJ Lee, in the eyes of the fans, if the GMs go, hey, I think that was a little, bullshit, and we have to figure out another match, then I think that's how you do it. Because in Chicago, when AJ Lee is going to be at her highest peak of popularity, maybe outside of WrestleMania, where I think everybody's going to love her there too, you get even more heat on Becky. I think you have Becky cheat to win, an underhanded way of winning, and AJ's so close. You have to have AJ Lee be in a position where she is about to win, and then you pull that out from under her. You give it to Becky, and then you have to find a way. Maybe a last chance gimmick for Mania. Maybe it's a triple threat that we're not privy to. Maybe there's a way that AJ can really goad Becky into having one more match. Because I'd like to see it's box office. AJ Lee and Becky Lynch is a huge box office match to me. And I think WrestleMania could serve as that next, platform for these two. I just don't know if that's the way to go if AJ Lee were to win this match, because I know that seems to be what everybody wants, is AJ Lee winning the match in Chicago, winning, whatever. And that's where I think maybe you do have a DQ finish where AJ Lee wins by way of disqualification. And then maybe you can do an Extreme Rules match at WrestleMania. You could do a street fight. I think there's ways to go about it where you can give AJ Lee that out of, I got to have another match. I won, but it was by DQ. It wasn't how I would have wanted it. And you have to put Becky into a corner where she has to defend the championship one more time. even if she has to defend it on Raw or SmackDown intermittently between now, Chamber, and Mania. I think you got to have the WrestleMania match probably the same, but with a gimmick. Well, someone's not happy about something going on by them honking this horn, but they probably want Becky Lynch to just win the match outright. So, Sports Illustrated said so too. So, I ultimately don't know. My biggest question is AJ Lee. Is AJ Lee going to be a part timer? Is she going to continue this run? Is WrestleMania the end game for her? I don't know what that is. I think that's my biggest question mark going into this match. I just have no idea. I want to say she's going to stick around for a while. There's also the Bella dynamic. Maybe they would want to get involved. And just people that aren't cool with AJ Lee coming back and getting this title opportunity. I'd like to see maybe a third person get involved. Maybe that's how you get a triple threat. Maybe that's how you get AJ Lee the championship at WrestleMania. I don't know. But I think ultimately, I would say AJ Lee wins this match by way of disqualification, or you get that Becky cheating win, but then it's kind of exposed that she cheated, and you get that next match at WrestleMania. And then, Tay Tay brings up a good point, giving AJ the title at Chamber, and then getting Becky the win back at Mania due to AJ being part time. That's what I'm kind of struggling with Tay Tay. I'm not sure if AJ is part time. And they're not going to say that. They're absolutely not going to bring up like, "Oh boy, she's part time. I don't know why she's even having these matches." Like it's just not, I don't necessarily think that's the right way to go about it. It's just by announcing, that she is just here for not a long time, just a good time. I think that would be unfortunate, but she very well could be just back for a Mania moment, Mania match. But if that's the case, I'd get her the title at WrestleMania, and then you take it off her at Backlash. You get a trilogy of matches between these two women, specifically one on one. You get Becky that Backlash in Tampa match, if that's what they want to do. I don't know. I'm really torn on this, but I'm interested. I'm for sure interested if it's going to turn out that way or what way it will turn out. I don't know. That's what makes it intriguing to me. So we shall see. But let's go to another championship match featuring someone who will get a rousing ovation in Chicago. The Second City Saint, Second City Savior, one CM Punk, taking on Finn Balor, World Heavyweight Championship on the line. Punk defending the world title in Chicago on the road to WrestleMania, where as long as everything goes according to plan, you get Punk, you get Roman, night 2 of WrestleMania for the world title, which is a huge match. Probably the biggest money match you can have at this stage, where The Rock ain't coming back right now. Wait till next year Mania's in Saudi. I think that is where you're going to see maybe The Rock return. But up until that point, you got to play with the players you got. And Punk Roman is a huge, huge match to have at WrestleMania night 2. So that's the match that needs to happen. And I don't think that Finn Balor is going to prevent that from happening. There's a lot of intriguing pieces to this match, though. CM Punk being in Chicago, I think, is a huge deal, especially coming in as champion. I just love that, you know. Defending the championship against Finn Balor while Finn is in the process of his old music's back at times. Could the demon show up or be referenced or teased here? Maybe. But I think we have another plan for that at WrestleMania. We'll get to there. I also think Finn is in a struggle with his fellow Judgment Day comrades saying, look, man, to JD McDonough, to Dom, to everybody, like, hey, I want to do this on my own. I've been a I was universal champion for a night. Like, I've done it. I've gotten to the top. I beat Roman Reigns to get there, to get that match against Seth Rollins, which, by the way, that match, Finn versus Roman Reigns, took place in Pittsburgh. I remember being there for that. One hell of a show that was back in 2016, right before SummerSlam. But Finn, to me, has bigger fish to fry, as it is Friday, and a lot of fish fries are going on here in Western PA. So funny pun there here from Juice. But Finn, I think, in his pursuit of the championship, in his wanting to do things on his own, is going to get stymied by someone who he's already told to not get the hell out of here. I want to do this on my own. And who better to interfere, to intervene, maybe not to get disqualified, or get Finn disqualified or anything, but to cost Finn Balor the championship. But one dirty Dom Mysterio. I think the writing is on the wall for not a Judgment Day blow up, but for Finn to finally turn that corner, maybe not even as a babyface, but just as a great in between character. Give me Finn versus Dom at WrestleMania and give me the demon against Dominic Mysterio at WrestleMania. Have Dom cost Finn, and then, Dom saying, "Hey, like, I didn't mean to. I was just trying to help." You know, no one's gonna buy it. And then you set up a way where maybe Dom is backstage, and then you hear that ominous light, or you see the ominous lighting and that ominous music for the demon, and that sets up a match at WrestleMania for whatever title, if you want the IC, if you want something else. And I think that's how you pull off WrestleMania. We had Phil on the show last week, where he did a great job coming in the juice box talking shop, and he says here Finn gets cost by Dom and JD, but we'll blame Dom and we get the match at Mania. I think JD McDonough's going to stay out of it. However, I can see Dom pushing JD to interfere, and JD kind of pushing back, and Dom going and overstepping his bounds, even as pretty much the leader of Judgment Day at this point, and getting involved. And I just think Demon versus Dom is a great opportunity at WrestleMania. Um, and because it happens in Chicago, you know, Finn Balor is a very, very popular guy in WWE, pretty much in the pro wrestling world. He's pretty revered across the board. He's a guy that I could have seen in AEW had he not done the WWE route, and AEW been around when he was coming through the rising through the ranks of New Japan. But along with the thing we'll talk about with the crate here in a little bit, I just see Dom being not just a heel, but because it's in Chicago and they're a smart wrestling fan base there, they're going to just escort Dom out of the building with just a plethora of booze. And it's not going to be something that we never see, because Dom always gets, drowned out with booze. But if Dom costs Finn, you get a double turn almost, where everybody already hates Dom, but because he costs Finn, Finn gets elevated and people love Finn. So you get sympathy from Finn, especially if Punk does shakes his hand like, "Hey, I wish that wouldn't have happened," like that. Not saying you run the match back at some point, but Finn and Punk had the great match in Belfast, and then you run it back here, and it gets kind of ruined by Dom. Damn it, you ruined it. And that's where I'll put this comment on the screen. You get the Demon Seed versus the Demon at WrestleMania. Fully agree with that. I think those two are on a collision course, and it should be a fun match, fun dynamic, especially if we get Demon versus Dom, because I don't think Dom can handle that. Or I would like to see how he handles it. Um, Especially since he was, behind bars for so long. I don't know if he saw anybody as crazy or scary as the Demon, but I'm looking forward to the match, to be honest with you. Punk maybe looking past Finn Balor to get to Roman makes this seem more intriguing. Punk just being the hometown guy, coming in as the defending champion, I think is a great piece of business. And the fact that we'll probably get some interference setting up WrestleMania. That's why I always say, not just on other shows, the Juice Box, No Dirt, Just Dialogue, whatever, any show I normally would frequent. I always say that wrestling always continues. You know, there is no off season, but every pay-per-view, every PLE, even when it's done, you got TV on Monday, you got TV on Wednesday, you got TV on Friday, you got another PLE or pay-per-view in the distance. You gotta have more. Especially with a show like Elimination Chamber, you gotta be able to start setting things up for WrestleMania. Especially WrestleMania in Vegas for the second time in a row. You gotta sell tickets. You gotta get the asses in the seats, and I think the Demon Wrestling Dom would get more asses in the seats for sure. But at the same time, you gotta have Punk and Roman for the title on night 2 and sell the whole damn show with that, honestly. You can't get rid of that, and I think we're just touching the surface of those 2 on the mic. We have a few more months, about a month and a half, give or take, of Raws and SmackDowns, you know. Oh, sorry. In between from now until Mania. So the promo battles are what's really gonna elevate this match between Punk, Roman, but we gotta get there. You gotta have Punk get through this match. I don't think it's gonna be a DQ or anything, but I can see Dominic Mysterio getting in the way and costing Finn Balor his World Heavyweight Championship opportunity. Let's go to the next match. The women's Elimination Chamber match. These chamber matches, they got 6 people in each one. Yet I don't think I think I have less to say or analyze in regards to these as opposed to the other 2 matches on this card. Because I think they're almost so not predictable, but to me, it's blank or the field in who will win these matches. So let's go over who's in the women's elimination chamber match for the WWE women's title opportunity. The winner takes on Jade Cargill, assuming she's still champion. Kiana James, who made an incredible impact at the Royal Rumble. Asuka, former women's champion multiple time. Same with Alexa Bliss, who she's on her way to maybe reclaiming some gold. Rhea Ripley, Raquel Rodriguez, and Tiffany Stratton. To me, it's Rhea Ripley or the field. I don't see. I can't even say that. I can see a few of these women winning this match, but if I had to pick one or the field, I'd say Rhea Ripley. I'll go to this comment here. Tete says Alexa will win. I would like to see Alexa win, but I think that there is a collision course, a friendly collision course with Charlotte Flair. Now let me posit this theory out there. I think Rhea Ripley is going to win this match. And then it's been brought up to me, oh, well, why would Rhea Ripley, not why, but like she's she's tag champ right now with Io Sky and like that. Why would they do that? This is how they could pull that off. Rhea Ripley wins. She's going on to WrestleMania. You find some way to get an interaction between Alexa Bliss and Rhea Ripley in the chamber to set up Rhea and Io versus Alexa Bliss and Charlotte for the tag titles. On some episode of Raw or SmackDown from now after Chamber till Mania, you get the title switch. You get Alexa and Charlotte winning the tag titles, and then you have we're champions, but who's really better between the two of us? You play the Alexa Charlotte dynamic. You get tag champions, Alexa and Charlotte, one-on-one at WrestleMania to prove who's the best of the best friends. And I think that would be a fun dynamic to play with, all while Rhea Ripley is looking to win another world championship against Jade Cargill, a match I've wanted to see for a long time. I really wanted to see Jade and Bianca Belair, but unfortunately, Bianca had some surgery recently, which is brutal. Not sure if she'll be healed up by Mania or, I hate to be this guy, but could could there have been a moment where the surgery had happened at another point and the photos were posted a little bit later on, you know, and maybe Bianca shows up in this chamber match to interfere to cost somebody? I don't think that's going to happen, but I would not be shocked if Bianca could pull something like that off, especially since they had the whole Jade thing last year with Naomi and the whole who done it story kind of culminating at Chamber to lead up to WrestleMania. But this is an interesting idea too. Charlotte and Alexa and Jade in a triple threat. I wouldn't hate that. I just think the one-on-one aspect to play off this Ray versus Eddie at WrestleMania 21 when they were tag team champions. I think that is a great comp between the two, and I would like to see it. To be honest with you, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know necessarily if that would open the show though. But I'd like to see Charlotte and Alexa go through this whole thing, be tag champs again, ultimately just to have one big, one-on-one match to prove who's really the best of the two of them. Just a fun, friendly rivalry match. I like those types of dynamics, and I think those two pull off the dynamic very well. And I'd like to see them have the match. But I digress. I mean, I don't see Tiffany Stratton winning this, and it's unfortunate. I don't know what she's going to do at WrestleMania just yet. Same with Kiana James, Asuka. Maybe you figure them into a US title or IC title like thing. I don't know. Oh man, long day at work today. Maybe you get. Am I crazy or did they do the Andre the Giant battle royal for the women? Am I crazy or did they do that? If they did, this is where you can put some of those women. I'm not sure. But I like to see someone like Tiffany Stratton be on the main card of WrestleMania. So I don't get a multi-woman US title match would be fun. That would be something I could see them doing. Another good point here: the Bellas and Lyra and Bailey. Yeah, I mean, maybe that's what you want to do. Maybe if the tag titles do go to Charlotte and Alexa by WrestleMania, then you can pull off a multi-team women's tag title match. That almost seems more likely, and that's assuming Rhea Ripley gets in. Now, I also thought, why the hell not? Why couldn't Raquel Rodriguez win this match? Raquel versus Jade is kind of a fun match to look at on paper. I don't know how it would look in the ring, but I've been a big proponent of Big Sexy. Raquel has been doing a great job, and she's vastly improved since just being a more constant figure on WWE programming for the last couple of years. I wouldn't mind seeing her versus Jade. I don't know who would win that match. We got WrestleMania predictions later on in the year, towards April, of course, but don't know who would win that. But I think ultimately, yeah, I just Rhea Ripley seems too much of a shoe in to me to go into WrestleMania as the challenger. Again, you want to put asses in the seats. You want to be able to promote your biggest stars across everything, and CM Punk versus Roman Reigns, Rhea Ripley, Jade Cargill, Dom versus the Demon. You got to get your top guys and girls on this show, WrestleMania, that is, in a big way. And you don't want them in a throwaway spot either. And that's not to say that a women's tag title match is throwaway or whatever, but you don't want them not on the card. And, Tay bringing up Bailey, Lyra, the Bellas. You got to have some of these teams and women and some of the guys that we'll talk about here in the next match. Got to be on the main cards for WrestleMania. You just have to have it happen. And I would hate for someone to be left out. I'd hate for them to be relegated to the like SmackDown before Mania, where they do the battle royals and stuff. I just wouldn't necessarily want that. You're so loaded with talent. Matt brings up a good point there too. Women's division super crowded. Yeah, well, and I kind of disagree to the last point. Incredible to be saying that. I I don't think it's that incredible. I think it's been literally stacked now for probably since the pandemic is where they really hit a stride of gaining talent and locking in who's their stars, creating new stars. Your Tiffany Strattons, your Jades, Rhea rising through the ranks at a record-setting pace. Lyra being a major player. You know, Chelsea Green, of course, she's injured, but she's been a major player. So I'm actually not surprised that the women's roster is so loaded. Top of the division is very crowded, as you say. Same with AEW. A lot of top heavy talent there in AEW on the men's and women's side. Only so much time. You know, AEW has longer shows that span one night and 4 to 5 hours long. You can fit a lot of talent on there. WrestleMania, you got 2 nights. You can kind of figure in who can be on these shows. So you don't want to neglect anybody. And I'm here to see what they come up with for the show of shows, the granddaddy of them all, WrestleMania in Vegas, especially. And I do want to make this point, especially because it's in Vegas again, and next year it's in Saudi Arabia. It's just not going to be as easily accessible for the traditional North American or even international fans at all to make the trek to Saudi to see WrestleMania next year. So this could be the last domestic Mania for at least a year. At least, who knows what 2028 looks like for WrestleMania? Could it be Nashville? Could it be Indianapolis? Because Indianapolis is going to get one. They had a Rumble, they're going to get a SummerSlam, and they're going to get a WrestleMania within the next like 10 years. So those are in play. Chicago could be in play. CM Punk, talked about it earlier today. Wrigley Field, Soldier Field are very much in play for certain WWE events going forward. I think Wrigley could easily take hold of a SummerSlam or maybe even something else. Soldier Field could easily have a WrestleMania or a SummerSlam. I could see. So we'll have to see what happens with all of that. I think it's fascinating. So when you don't have WrestleMania in your traditional spot next year, you really, really want to make sure the fans that get to see WrestleMania this year are satisfied. You do not want an outrage. You want everything to go smooth and fans to be as happy as they can be. You can't please everybody, especially not in the IWC or just online wrestling fans in general. It's very tough to appease everyone. It really, really is. So you do what you got to do. You make the matches that you need to make happen, and you go from there. So, in regards to matches that are happening, so ultimately though, I'm gonna take Rhea Ripley though. I'm gonna take Rhea Ripley to win this match. If I have to pick a second choice, man, Kiana James would be crazy. I think she's gonna. She hit like I think was it a Phoenix Splash in the Rumble, like 2 seconds in. So if that were to happen, and she made a Phoenix Splash in the chamber, she's got the Javon Evans spot. So if Rhea doesn't win, I'd like to see Raquel Rodriguez win. That's who I'd like to see win. Um, why not? Why not? Give us something different. Give us two jacked women's wrestlers, Jade versus Raquel, 1-on-1 for the world title WrestleMania. Sign me up. Sign me up. It's a good problem to have when your women's roster is stacked and your men's roster is stacked. Divvy it up. 2 nights, multi-man matches, tag matches, lesser title matches, quote unquote. So much you can do. And with 6 people in a match, you can do a lot. And we're going to talk about the last 6-person match, the men's Elimination Chamber match. This is the big one. Jey Uso, Trick Williams, Javon Evans, Cody Rhodes, LA Knight, Randy Orton. This is way less predictable to me than the women's match. Yet I see a lot of people just automatically saying Cody's going to win this. I don't necessarily disagree, but I disagree with the notion that it's going to be Cody versus Drew one on one at WrestleMania. They've done how many one on one matches in the last however many months in PLEs and what have you. It's been done to death. I I don't want to see an Iron Man match. That's as someone suggested on Twitter the other day between the two. I don't want to see Cody and Drew in any one on one match. So then that lends itself to all right, well, Drew's champion, and only one guy's going to win this chamber. So what the hell are we going to do? In the past, we've had people get attacked on their way to the chamber. I'm talking Edge attacking Kofi Kingston, Edge getting into the match instead of Kofi, Edge winning the whole thing. Could that happen? Maybe. Could that happen with a Javon Evans? I really hope not. I don't want it to happen to him. I don't want it to happen to LA Knight either. Because if that were to happen, oh my God, the outcry of support and for LA Knight would be through the roof if he were to be taken out of this opportunity. But I also think Javon would have a similar reaction from the fans of like, you took away probably the most impressive athletic specimen in WWE for an Elimination Chamber match that we've seen in what 20 years. I mean, he's Jeff Hardy, he's Rey Mysterio, he's Ricochet. He's got so much talent. He like I want him in this match. I want him in this match. I want Javon Evans hitting a cutter off of whatever pod. I want him to try to hit a cutter to get hit by another cutter by Randy Orton, hit the RKO. I'd love to see that. But we'll talk about that in a moment. Let's get back to the actual Cody of it all. So Tay brings up who I think it could be: Cody, Drew, Randy, and Jacob. Although I would swap Randy out for Sammy. I don't know what Sami Zayn's going to do at WrestleMania if he's not in the world title match. So that remains to be seen. But I also don't. If Orton isn't in the world title match, I don't know what that is either. I don't know what he does at you know um, at WrestleMania if he's not there. Last year, he wrestled Joe Hendry, and Tay says Sammy versus Trick. I think now here's where I'll go with this. Let's start with Cody. Let's go with Cody in the realm here. So you could have someone attack, someone before they get into the chamber and insert themselves in the match. Could be Jacob Fatu. It could also be a case of when someone gets eliminated from the chamber, they open that big ass chain door. Someone could come right in. They've done it before. And I think Jacob Fatu could insert himself into that. I could see Drew McIntyre being so pissed that Cody even has a chance to be against him at WrestleMania that Drew could cost Cody or insert himself in this match. And because of all those things, maybe even if Cody wins the match, the fact that Drew got involved or Jacob got involved, they have to find a way. Nick Aldis goes, hey, all four of you are just involved here. You gotta settle this. We're doing a fatal four-way. Maybe a triple threat if it's just Cody, Drew, Randy. But then what do you do with Jacob Fatu? Sami Zayn is kind of out of the loop. Sammy and Trick, I don't want to see. I would be interested in seeing it, but I'd rather see Trick versus maybe Carmelo Hayes or those two guys and some more guys in a United States title ladder match, because you know that they've been doing those types of things recently, multi-man ladder matches, multi-man title matches at WrestleMania, which I'm a big proponent of. I wouldn't hate LA Knight versus Trick Williams, to be quite honest with you. I would like to see the promo battles between those two, and that's if we don't get Chris Jericho before WrestleMania, because ultimately I want to see LA Knight versus Chris Jericho. Maybe Jericho, if Jericho is coming in, and if Jericho has his sights set on an LA Knight, you're ripping off all these other guys. I'm the guy who reinvents himself, and there's so much good stuff promo wise between LA Knight and Chris Jericho that I think it would just be incredibly entertaining TV leading up to WrestleMania. Plus, I don't think it'd be a bad WrestleMania match, to be quite honest with you. That's where I'd like to see LA Knight get a shot. Is in a big, higher stakes one-on-one match, even without the title on the line. Trick, Jericho, someone. I want LA Knight involved at WrestleMania. He's got to be. He's one of the most over guys they have. His song hits and people pop for it. I want him to win the world title at some point. This probably isn't that. I could be shocked, and LA Knight could get an opportunity. Maybe could you imagine if LA Knight won this chamber? I'm pulling for him. I'd love to see him win. I would not be mad. The only person I don't want to see win the Elimination Chamber match, to be quite honest with you, is Jey Uso. I want Jey Uso to run it back, do the yeet again, but get intercepted by an RKO, especially because Jey telegraphed that he will run it back, as he did in the Royal Rumble when they eliminated Brock Lesnar, as he did at War Games, which is absurd. I'm a traditionalist with War Games. Get that crap out of here. But I get it. I would like to see, Orton did it. Orton saw Jey Uso say, I'm gonna run it back at the chamber. Go right ahead, my friend. And I want to see an RKO to Mr. Yeet Man. That's the only guy I don't want winning this chamber match. And, as tag champions, I'd like to see a match between the Usos and the New Day, if the New Day can be healthy by the time we get to WrestleMania. I would love veteran, the veteran presence of the New Day and a team like the Usos, who have been doing this for over 10 years, high level, who used to be on the pre-shows, now being in a high profile tag title match at WrestleMania would be really cool. But I mean, look, we talked Cody. I think Cody's going to be involved in the WrestleMania world title match, WWE title match, one way or the other. I think Orton could be too. I don't know if he'd win. I don't know if he would win this chamber. I could see him getting in the match, though. I don't think he's done winning world titles. I think he's got at least one more in him to surpass Triple H. I know a lot of people would disagree with that purely because Triple H would just hold his thumb down and say, no. Remember what we did in Evolution? I think that same thumb is going to hold Randy Orton down from winning that 15th World Heavyweight Championship, in my opinion. So I'd like to see him win just one more. I don't know if that'll happen, but I'd like to see it. LA Knight, I would like to see win. That'd be great. I think he's got another moment or another spot on WrestleMania's card to be involved in. Maybe he's in the U.S. title ladder match if they have one, or the IC ladder match, whatever they do. Well, I guess the IC title would be the Dom and Demon. So U.S. title ladder match. Ladder match rules for those of you counting at home. Cody, like I said, everybody just thinks Cody Rhodes is going to win, which could very well be the case. Sometimes predictable isn't bad, but I don't want Cody and Drew straight up one-on-one. So I'd rather have someone else win the match and Cody be added later for a triple threat or a fatal four-way. Trick Williams is an interesting case. He is ascending as a star, and he's kind of a tweener. He's not a heel, he's not a face, but the fans love him. He's over as hell. He's giving off very early The Rock vibes. Not Rocky Maivia, but as soon as he turned into The Rock, it was like a shred, a little glimmer of confidence, charisma, and Trick already has that, but it now being on SmackDown, being on the main roster, he's getting to do that, you know, immediately and to a broader audience right out the gate. So I'd like to see Trick maybe win. I wouldn't hate that at all. Trick versus Drew would be fun. But like I said, Trick in a Carmelo multi-person match, I don't think would be bad. Um, I just don't know. Especially Carmelo is U.S. champ, and I think not an open challenge, but hey, let's just do a ladder match. I think that's like an obvious thing. Give me six guys. Carmelo, man, you could Carmelo, Trick, L.A. Knight, Javon Evans. Man, maybe Nakamura. Find me a fifth person, and I think you could easily do a six-person ladder match for the U.S. title. So that's where I think Trick will ultimately end up. I'd like to see him have a good performance, though. I don't think he'll be the standout. I think the standout of this could be Javon Evans. I think he's going to take a crazy RKO. I think he's going to take some crazy risks throughout this chamber match. When he won the qualifier, I said, why not have him just win it? Why not? Give us Javon and Drew one on one. Have Javon have this an incredible upset. Why not? Wouldn't that be fun? Wouldn't that be original? Wouldn't that be exciting? Get Cody versus Jacob in a one on one. They can do their own thing. They can make it Samoan rule. They could do Cody, Jacob, and a third Orton in a high level. You could do number one contender, Cody, Jacob, Orton at WrestleMania if you wanted. Give Javon the shot. I just think that there's opportunity knocking for WWE to make a splash. You already have Punk and Roman, right? Punk and Roman is a huge marquee, bona fide night two main event. Sell the whole show, both nights, based off of that match. And I think that you're in Vegas, and I think you could play with house money if you have such a great world title match on one night. Take some risks, take some chances. Give us Javon and Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. I don't know who to pick, to be honest with you. And there's really no way to do a schmoz in a chamber match. Like I said, I think someone could interfere, though, for sure. I think it'd be fun to have Jacob fly in through the the door gets opened up for someone getting eliminated. Out slides in Jacob. I could see Drew interfering by removing the floor like Shawn Michaels did to cost Undertaker back in 2010 to set up their WrestleMania 26 match. Like Drew will do. Shawn did everything and would have done anything to make sure Undertaker saw that I want this next match. Wrestle me again. Drew, I think, has a similar fervor to I don't want Cody Rhodes to win. I don't want Cody Rhodes to have another match with me. Have him take him out. And in that realm, whoever does win, let's say it's Orton, then you could have the dynamic of, well, we can make the triple threat or a fatal four-way. It's just whatever section. Oh, and then the six-man ladder match, Sammy. So you could do Sammy, Carmelo, Trick, Javon, LA Knight, maybe Shinsuke, right? You could do a crazy six-person ladder match if that's what you want to do. Yeah, 21-year-old on the fastest rocket in a Mania main event. It's just something. It's something that is just not done. And I give it chances. Don't rest on your laurels. Don't assume just because it's WrestleMania. I think they're finding out that just because it's WrestleMania doesn't mean it's going to sell out because these prices are so damn high. You ran it in the same city again, and it's just frustrating for fans that want to make the trip, and it's just not feasible. So you better make the show damn impressive and unique and intriguing and entertaining for those that do pay and show up for WrestleMania, that will watch it on ESPN, the first ever WrestleMania on ESPN proper. So I'm not gonna. I'm gonna say I think my choice is going to be Randy Orton. I would like to see Randy Orton win this match. If it sets up a triple threat or a four way, whatever, then be that as it may. If it's Orton's, Cody, and Drew and Jacob Fatu, then be that as it may. I'm gonna pick Randy Orton to win the match, and then what? This is the Elimination Chamber prediction show. This is not the I'm going to find out what else happens on Raw or SmackDown after Chamber prediction show because that's way too insane. There's got to be more stuff to happen from now till tomorrow, let alone from tomorrow through Raw, SmackDown, all these shows leading up to Mania. So even in whoever wins tomorrow night in any of these matches, their trajectory towards WrestleMania could be vastly different. But ultimately, I'm going to pick Randy Orton. I think he's going to have a great performance. He's going to hit a lot of crazy RKOs. So that's who I'm going to do. But and then Matt saying, are they really going to strap a world title to him this young? Now you've talked me into it. Yeah, it's interesting. Like I said, I didn't think he was going to win the qualifier. He was in there with Jey Uso and Gunther, two dudes that were in the world title match last year, and Javon won. There's a reason he won, but is the reason he's a pawn to get eliminated by someone or taken out before he's in the match? Is he just there for spots? Is he just there to hit crazy OG cutters or to take an RKO off the chamber pod, or like John Morrison from the top of the chamber and just like fall into an RKO? Is he just there for that? Is he just there to be eliminated before he gets in the match? Or is there another reason why he's in the match? Is he there to become a star? Is he there to make an impression that it doesn't matter how old, how young, how inexperienced, how much of a veteran, no matter what, if you make the playoffs, if you're in the chamber, if you have an opportunity, if you're in the Rumble and you have a shot, you win, you go to WrestleMania. And in WrestleMania is game 7. Anything happens in game 7. You just gotta get there. I wouldn't hate Javon Evans winning. I'm sorry that I'm talking myself into it. I would love to see WWE have some balls and just do it. You got so much now. The other part of it is like you have plenty of time to make Javon a star, and that's great. You have similar amount of time to do a Cody Drew thing or Jacob Fatu even next year. You have so many options to play with all these different talents. Ultimately, that's why I'm picking Randy Orton, because I don't think you have that much time with him left. So get him this maybe one final title run in 2026. Then you can play the Cody angle with it and Jacob Fatu, and you have multi-man matches, what have you. And I want to bring this up too, because I disagree. Sammy's shred of believability of winning a world title sailed in Saudi. Well, you're wrong. I think he absolutely could win the Royal Rumble and win the world title in Saudi next year, because that is the perfect redemption story of he had a shot to win the world title in Saudi and didn't. And then now WrestleMania, he finds his way to the world title match at WrestleMania in Saudi and then wins. Imagine if it could be against Gunther, could be against a Drew. What if it was against Roman to play off their bloodline stuff? So I think Sami Zayn will win the world title at some point. Could it be next year's WrestleMania? Who knows? Let him win the Rumble again and lose again in Saudi. If Vince was at the helm, goddamn pal, that's what he would say. But I don't think so. I think they love these ultimate underdogs. They've got a lot of them on the roster, and I don't see why Sammy couldn't do it. And I think it's not to say that he's going to be all Tommy Dreamer, where I don't want to win the big one. He finally beats Raven, or any of these guys that have I don't need to win the big one. I can just do whatever. I think Sami Zayn's got a lot of Mick Foley in him, where he knows he never has to, but I think he ultimately wants to, and I think WWE is going to give him that opportunity in the future. I'd wager the near future. So, WrestleMania next year is what I'd venture to say is where Sami Zayn could win, and elevate himself as he probably, I'd say he's a main event player now, but he's out of the main event scene in title picture right now. But you never know. And something else you never know, which is how we're going to close the prediction show here today. North of 40 viewers, which is great considering last week for the Juicebox 200 we had probably triple that, but that was a special show, a lot of guests, a lot of fun. This is more impromptu. I announced it today, and we're doing the show today live, very impromptu, 6 hours notice. And I appreciate everybody tuning in for this show on YouTube and on X, formerly known as Twitter. But I'd like to close the show with maybe the most intriguing aspect of this show to some, purely because we don't know. I love intrigue. I love mystery. I love surprises in my pro wrestling. And damn it, there is a crate being shipped from Raw to SmackDown to Raw to SmackDown. And now it's being shipped directly to Chicago for Elimination Chamber. What's in the box? Who's in the crate? What's in the crate? Pro wrestling crate? Could it be Danhausen? Could it be Chris Jericho? Could it be the Demon gear before CM Punk and Finn Balor have their match? Could it be after the Punk title match and Balor is the one to open it? I believe they did say though that Aldis and Pierce will be opening the crate at Chamber. If it's in the middle of the ring, that'll be one thing. That'll be a wild way to do it, especially if it's good or bad. I don't know. Let's just look at the not most obvious, but the most talked about, thought out guess. Seems to be Danhausen. Formerly Ring of Honor and AEW. AEW, for lack of a better term, Danhausen is a meme character. He does the curse thing. He got face paint. He's a very entertaining character. And he did a lot of entertaining stuff in AEW. I also think that the character could go a long way in WWE in the same realm. I don't see him winning any major championships. I don't think he needs to win any major championships. Give Danhausen a tag title run with Mr. Iguana. Why not? Why the hell not? You can do so many different things with a guy like Danhausen, but I don't know what else you do with him other than sell a lot of merch, sell a lot of masks and face paint, and I'm sure he'd have maybe his own stuffed doll like Layeska. So there is a ceiling for Danhausen to be in WWE. But I will say this. There are a lot of people that say, oh, now for the fans at home, that's a whole nother story. But, oh, man, if Danhausen's revealed, they're not going to know who he is. Wrong. The show is in Chicago. AEW has had countless shows in Chicago, including at the United Center most recently. So the fans in Chicago specifically will know exactly who Danhausen is, will pop huge for a reveal of him, and it would also help those watching at home prove that this guy is a bigger deal right out the crate. See what I did there? So I don't think it would just be a huge miss. Now, when Andrew Baydala, great friend of the show, co-host on No Dirt Just Dialogue, he was the first one I saw that speculated it could be a very nice, very evil surprise in the crate. And then it was then revealed, I think mybookie.ag, Danhausen's the favorite, the odds-on favorite, as crazy as that is for you gamblers out there. So when that initially came out as a report, I was hesitant and I said, look, I think this is a huge miss if the crate is Danhausen, because it should have some weight to it. It should have some levity. I'm not going to deny that Danhausen will move a ton of merch and that he will make a lot of money for WWE and with WWE. But like I'm saying now, I still agree with this point from then. There is a ceiling. What else can he do? Is he going to be a GM? Is he going to be a manager? Is he going to wrestle at all? Is he just going to be a funny meme character like R-Truth? What will they do with Danhausen other than the main couple of things? And that's where I find a problem with, like, how long before the novelty wears off? It'll be a great reveal. It'll be great him popping up on TV here and there and on NXT and maybe on Evolve and then on SmackDown, on Raw, at WrestleMania. He could pop up anywhere and everywhere. He could pop up in Gorilla. There's a lot of fun that could be had. But then what? I don't know how many times the bell's even going to ring for a Danhausen match in WWE, if ever, unless you get a tag match, like I said, with Mr. Iguana or R-Truth or Joe Hendry. Like, I just see him as a memeable character. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when you have this crate thing, I tend to want it to be more important. Luckily, we won't have to probably deal with anything in the realm of, WWE 2K26 is already being promoted and they've revealed everything for that. So like this crate probably has nothing to do with that. Thank God, because they did that with Goldberg, Sting, Warrior. They've done things with wrestlers and surprises involved in regards to the video game that I think the crate could have unveiled. And I'm kind of glad that we're kind of past that with the game. So the reveal in the crate is not going to be that at all, in my opinion. Could it be Chris Jericho? Maybe not Chris Jericho in the crate. What if it's the list hanging in the crate? What if it's the list of Jericho? What if it's his sequenced jacket in there as well? What if it's the countdown to the Millennium Clock in there? What if it's a reference to something? It's been also speculated it could be a Hall of Fame announcement. The fact that we just got AJ Styles as the latest announcement makes me think it's not a Hall of Fame announcement in this crate, especially when both GMs are going to reveal it. So here's my nutty theory and how I would do it. If it's Danhausen, I would make it as memey as possible. And no, I'm not going to suggest the Shockmaster. I'm going to go a little sicker. Have the crate open up and it be the gobbledygooker. And then all hell breaks loose. And it's like, oh my God, what a waste. What a waste. For him to dance with Pierce, dance with Aldis, like the Gooker did with Gene back at Survivor Series 90. The mask comes off, and it's Danhausen. That's how I would debut Danhausen. That would be fun. That's how you tie in Danhausen with something from the past to really set in motion what you can do with Danhausen here's the thing. I know being a meme and a funny thing and being R-Truth has a ceiling, but you can be really effective in that ceiling space if you make it the right moments, if you do it at the right time, if you pay homage to other memes like that, like like again, the Shockmaster, Gobbledygooker, any sort of funny accidental thing that's ever happened that's like a meme or a joke, it was a joke. Then you can really elevate Danhausen and almost make him seem like he was a part of WWE this whole time. Danhausen's already referencing what happened in Survivor Series 90. Now, he didn't come out of an egg. It's a crate, but I think it's interesting. I think it's unique. So I would really, really love to see the opportunity for Danhausen to make a splash that's not just him coming out of there going like this. Now, it very well could just be that. That's fine. I'm not going to hate on it. I'd be happy to see him there. I think Chicago's going to love it. And I'm intrigued to see what would happen next, even if it's a meme ceiling. I don't think that's a negative. I really don't. So I don't know. The last point I'll make is because this crate thing is kind of out of left field. They just threw it out there, and now they're hyping it for a PLE. It's hype. It's interesting. It's intriguing. It's a surprise, and I'm here for it. I like stuff I cannot predict in pro wrestling. Even if it's Danhausen, I can't predict how it's going to happen or what he's going to do. So that's enough for me. You know, maybe it is Mr. Iguana. It could be. There's so many different things it could be. And that's why we're here. And that's why I'm glad you tuned in tonight for this very special live edition of the Juice Box, episode 201. You thought we were doing this for only episode 200. Well, we did it for episode 201. I have a feeling we might do it for WrestleMania time as well. We'll get there. We will get to WrestleMania time. I might even start running some spaces on the artist formerly known as Twitter. I might be starting to do some of that down the line. I like these live interactive things. I really haven't done much of it. It takes a little bit to kind of get acclimated to it, to set things up, to get ready, to promote it, make sure everything's going on. I mean, God, last week we had 6 people in here. I didn't think my bandwidth could handle it. But we survived. We did it. We had a solid amount of viewers. It was a great time. We've done it tonight again for episode 201 Elimination Chamber predictions. We've got Dev coming in. People need to get more excited for this chamber. I got to tell you, I am excited. I like the city that it's in. I like the intrigue of not knowing what's in the crate. I like the intrigue of not knowing who's going to win the chamber, primarily on the men's side, because I think multiple could win it, and I don't know what's going to happen in regards to who's going on to WrestleMania. The women as well. I think the women have a very interesting chamber match. Fans need to prepare for Grande Phenomenal to come out of the box. Maybe AJ Styles is in the box, in the crate. No, what if it's Danhausen as El Grande Danhausen? Like that, it needs to. It can't. To me, it can't just be Danhausen. It needs to be Danhausen as something, because Danhausen is what he's known for. Is he kind of plays off of another gimmick, and he does his own play on it, and they've done like special action figures where he's another character or he's a monster or whatever. Play off that. Have him be the Gobbledygooker. Have him be El Grande Americano. I just don't want him to necessarily just be Danhausen. Dev being, he had 3 comments. The first one was great. The second one was a little bit crazy, and now the third one is absolutely unhinged. Although he didn't say that he wants Danhausen to be a part of a triple threat match. That would have been more last week, but I don't see him becoming the leader of the Judgment Day. What if it's Danhausen as the Demon? Now that couldn't happen either, because especially if my thinking is they're going to do the Demon at WrestleMania, they don't want to make fun of it a month and a half out. But it is what it is. Like I said, I'm very excited for Elimination Chamber. It's in Chicago, hot crowd, final PLE before WrestleMania. You got the crate thing, 2 chamber matches. CM Punk defending the world title in Chicago. AJ Lee challenging for the world Intercontinental title in Chicago. I think is awesome. The crate thing is intriguing. 2 chamber matches. I have no idea who's going to win. and I'm hyped. I'm really excited. Not sure if there will be some sort of after show space or show in regards to myself or the rest of guys, the rest of collective or Drew or what have you. If there is one, maybe I'll see you there. Maybe I'll be a part of that. But this has been the Elimination Chamber 2026 prediction show. I really appreciate everybody who's given some comments, helped along the show along this track here. Dev, Tay Tay, Maddie P coming in hot. And I just like the live interaction. I've always enjoyed that aspect of it. Never really got to do that as I was a YouTube guy way back when. We did some call-in shows on Blog Talk Radio, and those were fun. We had people calling in. That was as interactive as it ever got. We hadn't hit that live stride yet, but with the advent, creation, whatever of the juice box in January of 2023, it kind of led to, well, we can do some more things. And my history and familiarity with stuff we did on Chair Shot back from 2016, 2018 kind of helped me get to this moment of I can figure out how to do my own thing, invite people in, be a guest on other people's shows, do it all. But it takes time to get to this point where we're doing some live stuff, and I really appreciate the support when I do these live shows. So shout out to north of 50 viewers actually watching this. I know it may not be a lot, but it's better than nothing. And I appreciate the viewership support and the audio listenership. This will be out on audio as soon as this is done. It'll be processed and uploaded to the Podbean feed. If you missed this will be in the RSS feed, and you can catch this video version, live replay on YouTube as well. Twitter at Juicy Steen, at Juicy Steen on YouTube. Listen to the show on Spotify, Apple Music, via iTunes. Both of those where you can leave a rating and review if you would. That'd be great. JuicySteen.podbean.com, Amazon Music as well to listen to the Juice Box. And I will promote this. I'm going to do two different ways this year. On Instagram at Juicy Wrestling Closet, there is a plethora of wrestling t-shirts that you will see on that page every year leading up to WrestleMania, or in this case, it's going to be just March. There is a hashtag 30 days of wrestling tees. And every single day I will be posting a different wrestling t-shirt that I have in my collection. Old, new, vintage, repro, WCW, WWE, ECW, whatever. I will be pushing a new t-shirt and posting one every single day, starting Sunday, March 1st, leading up to the end of the month. And I believe I'll be doing the same thing on Twitter as well. However, that'll be more coded with WCW, because WCW in March of 2026, it's not really a celebration, but I will be celebrating 25 years since WCW was purchased. The end of an era. So that will be what I do. I'm going to be posting some WCW shirts on my Twitter, and that will be something to look out for if you interact there. Post your own shirts on Instagram, hashtag 30 days of wrestling tees. Follow me on Twitter or on Instagram at Juicy Wrestling Closet, and we can go back and forth on different merch items. Dev puts in wrestling shoes, HBK Converse. No, I have my wrestling memorabilia goes pretty crazy. I have a Bash at the Beach 96 shark koozie. I have a WCW championship coin that was given out to TBS execs. I have a WCW satin jacket that was owned by Bob Ryder, who was a part of WCW and TNA. But my main thing is WCW pay-per-view shirts from the actual pay-per-views, where you either were a crew member and you got one, or you were in attendance and purchased one. Because I think, you watch those shows, you don't see as many of those shirts in the audience. So there's only a select few that were even produced, let alone bought. So I pride myself on showing those and just making a point to banter about it. It's a talking point, discussion point. And that's what I do here on the Juice Box. And that's what I've been doing for the Elimination Chamber 2026 predictions. As always, follow me on Twitter at Juicy Steen. We'll have, response and reaction to this show next week on the Juice Box. Find me on No Dirt, Just Dialogue next Thursday. I'm sure we'll be talking about the fallout from Elimination Chamber, Dynamite as well, and much, much more. But I really do appreciate the live listenership and viewership here for the WWE Elimination Chamber 2026 prediction show right here on the Juice Box. Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen, covering the week that was in professional wrestling.